Hi, good afternoon. It's Brian from Belvoir. I just put together this short video just following on from a meeting I had last night with a lovely young couple who were about to sell their first home. They bought it a number of years ago as first-time buyers, and they're going through the process now of selecting an agent to help them sell that home to maximise the value for their onward purchase. When I went through that meeting with them, it became really clear that they were struggling with the type of questions they should ask and the points they should challenge an agent on. So I just decided I'd take this opportunity to put together this short video which would outline those kind of 7 key points which you need to consider before you select an agent. First one, very, very simple. What type of agent do you want? Forget about online, hybrid. All agents are on the portals. They should all be on Rightmove and Zoopla to maximise your exposure. The real question you have is, do you want a DIY agent or do you want a full service agent? DIY, we've seen probably a lot of the ads on TV. You tend to pay up front. You tend to carry out the viewings yourself. There's a lot more onus on you. You'll be more involved in the negotiation. A full service agent should take all of that away from you and carry it on. It'll be really up to you to decide who's going to give you the better outcome. And this is what it's all about. It's all about maximising the value, putting the maximum amount of cash in your back pocket as a seller. The fee may be slightly higher. The fee tends not to be paid up front on a full service agent, but you need to balance up all those pros and cons, and that we'll do a separate video on that later on. The next key thing is really focuses on strategy. And it's a big bugbear of mine when I see properties marketed for sale without floor plans, without video, without good quality photography, and with poor descriptions. So what is that agent's marketing strategy for that house? Fundamentally, it falls back to what I call the list and pray strategy. We'll bang it on the portals. We hope the phone's going to ring. That just does not work. The market is constantly changing. Yes, we've come through quite a busy period. We've got the stamp duty holiday, which effectively is ended, although the deadline is the 31st of March. You won't get a deal closed before then. So unless the Chancellor does something, it's going to be gone. So you need a proactive agent, and the strategy really needs to focus on a number of key areas. What is the overall marketing strategy for the house? How are you going to deal with stagnation? What is your strategy when the property stalls? How are we going to reactivate the listing? What is the viewing strategy? What is the pricing strategy? So the property may well have a valuation of X, but you may launch it at a different price. Maybe an offer's in excess of, maybe a slightly higher price to allow negotiation. That is part of a strategic discussion that needs to have. What is the launch approach? What is the launch strategy? Are you going to do an open house? We don't really like them. It forces people together, which isn't good, obviously, in the COVID situation. But people need time to look at the property without feeling pressurized. So a day where you've got viewings, or a morning and you've got people with allocated time slots, works really well. But there needs to be a launch strategy. And also, don't lose sight of the inquiry strategy. If your agent can't deal with the inquiries, it's pointless, because it's not going to lead to viewings on your property. So you need to know how the agency is staffed, what their process is for dealing with it, how quick they will return calls, how quick they will get people booked in. And one of the top tips is, don't be shy about sending an online inquiry through to an agent who you're thinking of using. Get onto Rightmove, get onto Zoopla, ping it through, whether it's on their Facebook channel, on their own website. Bang it through, see what the response is like. How does it make you feel as a buyer? If you get that warm feeling that, actually, God, this agent is all over it, brilliant. That they tick the box on that front. But they need to have strategies on all those things, because your property sale can fall out of bed on a lot of those different strategies. As I say, the big thing is it cannot be a list and pray strategy, because then you really are hoping that your property will sell. We don't leave things to hope. We don't leave them to chance. There has to be a strategy. If you plan, it's going to happen. The appraisal value. This is another thing that we see where agents will look to secure the listing by overvaluing the house. And this does you absolutely no favours. Most people will have a fair idea of what their home is worth. They'll talk to 3 or 4 agents. They'll see what the neighbour's house sold down the road. They'll have a ballpark figure. If you have an agent who comes in and says they can get you 30 grand more, doubt it. You know, ask them for the comparables, the direct comparables for that property. They have to be able to substantiate it, because the last thing you want is for your property to stick and it does not sell. Every single property that goes onto the portals will benefit from a honeymoon period. That honeymoon period is probably 4 to 6 weeks. It's going to get a lot of eyeballs on it. It's going to get a lot of traction, and that's when you're going to get the inquiries, the viewings, and ultimately the offers. You know, and we would look for our properties to go sale agreed within that 6 to 8 week period, because the strategy is right all throughout the advertisement, all throughout the marketing campaign. But if you go with an agent who promises you 30 grand more, even though in your heart of hearts, you know it's just too high, that agent's going to come back, you know, 6 weeks later, look, not getting much action, we need to reduce the price. So 5 grand comes off it, 10 grand comes off it. You're on for another 5 or 6 weeks and it gets reduced again and again. What then tends to happen is you end up with a situation where the property ultimately can effectively get a bit of a smell on it. It's been on the market so long, it's had a number of price reductions on it. Potential buyers are going to look at that property and go, ooh, there must be something wrong with it. What have I missed? I really like it, but there must be something wrong with it. I'm going to back away. So that just does not work at all in terms of the appraised value. Another thing which can happen as a result of the appraised value, you may decide to appoint 2 agents. We would tend not to recommend that at all, because you lose accountability. There's one fee, one agent will ultimately secure the fee, but they've got a 50% chance of doing it. And what we tend to find is you tend to get less than 50% engagement in actually trying to sell your property. Pick a really good agent, pick one, and hold them accountable and make sure they deliver for you. Stay away from multi-agency. It really doesn't do you any benefits. It shows an air of desperation, and it makes it difficult to negotiate when there's 2 agents involved. If you're the sole agent, you can play hardball. You can sit back a little bit from the negotiations to allow the potential buyer to stew a little bit and make sure, you know, their engagement is there. They love the property. They'll come back with another offer, a higher offer. If you've got 2 agents, it makes it really difficult. Talking about agents and picking them, contract tie-in, the contract. You should not sign a contract where the agency forces an exclusivity period of 16, 20 weeks, whatever it may be. Here at Belvoir, we do not have a tie-in period. We should only remain as your agents as long as we perform. If we don't perform, I'll be full of apologies. Really sorry we haven't been able to do it for you. How can we help? Where do you want us to drop the keys? That's how it should be. But we should only ever be your agent as long as we perform. That keeps us on our toes. It means we've got to perform for you every single day. On the other hand, if you sign a contract, what tends to happen, because we speak to people who want to get out of those contracts, you get signed up, you get promised the sun, moon and stars, get quoted a real high valuation number, you sign up on the expectation they're going to deliver that, and then 6, 8 weeks, reduce the price, got to do this, you're not happy, communication isn't good, and you want to move, and they waive a bit of contract. So that bit of contract that you've signed is their tie-in, and they're going, no, you can't go. So we don't believe in them at all. You shouldn't sign them. There's no need to sign them. The agent has to perform every single day to remain as your agent. So the next thing we get asked a lot is, look, what does an agent do for its fee? And I think at times agents can be very poor in actually communicating what they actually do and how they earn and justify their fee. So for us, we break it down into kind of 3 distinct areas. And we would break it down as 20, 40, 40. So 20% of the fee relates to the initial bit, pre-consultation, getting all the marketing material ready. So brochures, the photographic, the photo shoot, the video, 3D virtual reality tour, floor plan. All these things are the basic ingredients that you need to launch a property. Picking the right time of the day to do it, the right time of the week when the weather's going to be good, bringing all those components together, drafting a really good ad, which will incorporate factors as to why the seller actually fell in love with the property, and that will appeal to the new buyer coming in, schools, etc., etc. There's so much that goes into that. The next 40% of it is actually getting the viewings booked in, is qualifying the buyers, making sure they're in a proceedable position. Particularly with COVID now, you don't want anyone and everyone coming into your home. You only want people who are proceedable, who can actually complete a deal coming in. We need to pre-qualify all those, make sure they're in that proceedable position before we bring them in. Ultimately then we need to negotiate. Negotiation is something which doesn't get talked about enough in estate agency. You know, a lot of agents will bang it on the portal, get a price, try and convince you that it's the right price to accept, and just get the deal done. You need to go through a stage of negotiating hard, pushing them so we get the maximum price for the property. That's a really big chunk of what an agent will do, a good agent. You know, when you look at, I mentioned at the start, your DIY full service agent, DIY agents tend not to operate out of offices. So when the negotiation starts to happen on your house, your biggest tax-free asset, where does that happen? Starbucks, maybe, other coffee shops are available, but it's not going to happen in an office. It's not going to be given time, privacy, confidentiality, so you can discuss it with the potential buyer, with you as the seller. Really, really important that that happens in a safe place where it can happen the conversation go on for as long as needed. It doesn't need to be truncated because your latte is ready or whatever. So, you know, all these points kind of link in. The final 40% of what an agent does is actually get that deal over the line. There's no point having cracking marketing, negotiating a really, really good deal if it falls out of bed. There will be hurdles along the way. There will be survey, there will be mortgage issues, there will be buyer concerns. The market may change during that period of time. It's keeping it on track. The agent's deal is done when everyone, the buyer, gets the keys for the house, when the seller has the funds in the bank for the sale of the house, and ultimately the agent gets paid out of that. So that's kind of what an agent does for its fee. You know, moving on, the key thing which I spoke about there, that middle 40%, negotiation. You really need to test the agent and talk to them about negotiation. You want them to maximize the value of your home. One key way of doing it is challenge them on what they're charging you on the fee, right? So if they come in and they're going, yeah, we're going to charge you, 1.5%, and you go, ooh, it's a bit pricey, and they go, oh no, look, no, we'll drop it down to 0.75. What does that say about their negotiation skills? Nothing. Like they really, it's void. There is nothing there. You want an agent who knows their worth, who's going to substantiate their fee and explain their fee in detail and how they differ from other agents, but will hold their ground because they will now fight your corner tooth and nail. That will maximize the value of your house. Finally, we'll touch on it. It's the fee level. A lot of the things I've mentioned here take time and resources to do it properly. Okay, it can be done on the cheap. There are some agents where you pay up front, or you sign a credit agreement, you pay them 3 months down the track. But you pay them whether your house is sold or not. So you have to ask the question, are the goals aligned? If you've paid someone up front, they're more concerned about getting a new listing because they get paid on getting the listing, and they're not paid upon completion. So goals are not aligned. So any fee conversation should be, you get paid when the deal gets done. So everyone is invested in the transaction. We've got to invest time and money into it to make the marketing right, to deal with all of the inquiries, but we don't receive any remuneration from it until the deal actually closes. That is correct, 100% correct. But the final thing on fee really is if all of the other components that I've mentioned, these other 6 points I've mentioned earlier, if they're in place, so if they have a really good strategy for everything that can happen, launch strategy, pricing strategy, stagnation strategy, marketing strategy, if they've got a good team of people who can deal with the inquiries, good viewing assistants who can carry out the viewings, get good feedback, communicate well, and negotiate the hell out of the deal. Like really, don't leave a stone unturned. Don't worry about the fee, because guess what? The buyer's going to pay it. The buyer will pay the fee because they'll get you that extra 1,000, 2, 3, 5, 10,000 pounds in the transaction. So get everything else right. Fee is important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not. It is, but it shouldn't be the most important thing. Don't start the conversation with fee, because there's so much more you need to know to actually, before you get to that point, to say, well, actually, do they deserve that fee? It's not a question of, oh, well, I'll do it at 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 1, 1.25, whatever it might be. You need to look at the overall package, because this is your biggest tax-free asset. You need to maximize the value of it in order to help you move on to the next chapter of your life. So look, I've rambled on enough here. Hope you found it useful. If you need any more specific advice, please give us a call. Keep an eye on our channels. We will have more videos going out. Hope you find them useful. If there's anything specific you'd like me to do a video on, give me a shout, drop me a message, DM, whatever it is. Let me know and we'll cover it in that video. Or pick up the phone, give me a shout. Always happy to have a chat. And when COVID's gone, maybe we can meet for coffee as well. Brian from Belvoir. Thank you.